back to work. You see that, whether it's a demonstration or just in talking
We
to
thank
people.
you,
They're going to
President
get back to
Donald
work, and
Trump
they're going to get back to work
and
very
Mike
fast.
Pence,
States
Vice
advanced.
President.
I look at Gavin Newsom was very nice today. He wrote a beautiful statement about we sent him a lot of things that he needed. Okay, different things that he needed. We got it taken care of. They've done very well in California, as you know. They're doing really well in Florida. They're doing well in a lot of places. New York and New Jersey got hit very hard. They're doing very well. I spoke again with
April the
Governor Cuomo,
23rd,
with Governor
2020.
Murphy. They're doing a great
President
job.
Donald Trump and
Here's the thing:
Vice
you
President
have to
Mike
see they got
Pence,
hit hard. Everyone close together, tight end. People don't realize New Jersey
coronavirus
is very tight.
news
You
conference
realize that because you've been covering it for a
from the
long time, but very
special
tight. New
team.
York obviously is very tight. They're doing a terrific job. I think for the most part, I'll be able to tell you when it's all over, but a lot of the governors have done a really terrific job. Some I don't think have, to be honest, but we'll be talking about that in the future. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. In a new interview today with Time Magazine, Dr. Fauci said that the U.S. is not in a situation where we can say we are where we want to be with regard to testing capacity. He said we need much more testing capacity as well as tests. So why do you keep saying we have a tremendous testing capacity? And do we have a national strategy that goes beyond tracking just what the states are doing?
The answer is yes, and the answer is, as you know, and as I've said many times, we're very advanced in testing. Other countries are calling us to find out what are we doing. And by the way, within 2 weeks, you'll see numbers and you'll see different forms of testing, just like we came up with the Abbott Laboratories machine, which gives it to you in 5 minutes that everybody wants. Everybody's asking, can we get that? But you can only make them so fast. But as you know, we've done more testing than every other nation combined. And that's a big statement. And you know, when they talk about different tests and different things, we're also a bigger nation than most. And so when they look at statistics, because statistically we're doing phenomenally in terms of mortality, in terms of all of the different elements that you can judge. When you look, Germany and ourselves are doing very well. We are very accurate in the reporting of numbers. In fact, I'll go a step further. As you know, in New York, they actually added quite a few deaths to a list that was done in New York, and they added a number of deaths. We're very highly accurate. And then you look at certain lists of other countries. Some are so obvious just to look at, where obviously the number is ridiculous in the form of low, because they're not accurate counts. They're not even close to accurate counts. In fact, they're insulting to look at them. So we've done very well. Again, testing, we're doing very well on testing. We've tested far more than anybody else anywhere in the world. And within a short period of time, you'll be hearing about new tests that are coming out that are going to be incredible.
Dr. Fauci, that we're just not there yet.
No, I don't agree with him on that. No, I think we're doing a great job in testing. I don't agree. If he said that, I don't agree with him. Yes.
Considering ways to ramp up production of that Abbott rapid test.
Yeah, well, they're doing it. I'll tell you, Steve, they're doing it at a level that they've never done it before. Abbott is a great company. It's a very big, highly respected company. They came up with this machine where you do it. I've done it both ways. I've done it this way, and I didn't like it, and I've done it the Abbott way, where you literally just touch, and 5 minutes later you know the answer. And we use them in the White House. I think you folks have been given that opportunity, which is much more pleasant than the first way that they looked at you, right? We're making them hundreds of thousands of machines. The advantage to the other tests and the laboratory tests, so we can get millions and millions of those tests done. It takes a day or 2 days, but you know, because it's really a delivery situation more than anything else. The test itself goes quickly once it gets to the laboratory. But as we have found, and as we have, I think, shown everybody in the room, we have many laboratories. We have so many laboratories. Nobody. A lot of the governors did not know that we had this capacity, but we have many laboratories all over our country. Every state has laboratories, and some have a lot of them. So I think we will come up with things as time goes by. Again, when I started, we started with nothing, essentially. We started with a broken test, a test that didn't work. We started with a test that did very few people, not millions of people. The problem is if we did 350 million tests, one for each person. The media would say, oh, you should have done 2 for each person. No matter what you do, it doesn't make any difference. It's just like the ventilators. I talk about it all the time. Nobody ever mentions ventilators. One of the hardest things are ventilators. And now we're making thousands a week, thousands of ventilators, and they're calling from Mexico. They're calling from many countries. I've received today 4 calls. Would it be possible to send ventilators? All right? I got 4 calls today. I got 3 calls yesterday. No country is equipped like we are. We have 11 different places making ventilators. Our country, as you know, doesn't need them now. Our governors are very happy. But that's different than tests, because with the test you can always say, oh, we need more. No, I think we've done incredibly well obviously with ventilators. We also have 500 million masks that are very shortly going to be here. We've made millions of masks. We have ordered millions of masks that have arrived and been distributed. We gave one hospital in New York City 300,000 masks. Before the virus, they were using 10,000, and now we got them 300,000, and they got rid of them very quickly, which I sort of say, how did that happen? Why? Because they became very valuable, the masks. So I say, how did that happen? But we've done an amazing job, and we've worked with the governors, and when the governors weren't able, again, they're the first line, when they weren't able to get something like ventilators, they couldn't get ventilators. They could have bought them. You could have bought them, but many of them chose not to. So they all needed ventilators. We got the job done. I'll be introducing the team when we're finished with this whole nightmare, this whole curse, this whole plague. But the team that worked on the ventilators was incredible. And the team that worked, and it's a little bit interchangeable, but the team that's working on the testing is truly an incredible team. These are brilliant people. And they're doing it for the country. They're not doing it for other reasons. Some have been very successful. They're doing it for the country.
Mr. President, yes, the House has now passed, since you were here, the relief bill.
Right.
As you know,
signing it probably tonight.
as you know, there's no aid to states and localities in that bill. Mitch McConnell, of course, has talked about states seeking bankruptcy protection. He's also, his office referred to this as the idea of aiding states in a blue state bailout. What do you say to that? Do you agree with that, or do you agree with Governor Cuomo that is a vicious attack on these states that have been hit by it?
It's a vicious attack, but certainly some people do look at it that way. I've spoken to Mitch about it. I've spoken to numerous senators about it, and we're working with senators that are on the other side of the issue, and we'll see what happens. But we're looking to do what's right for the people of this country. We're looking to do what's right for a particular state, and we'll see what happens. But it's certainly the next thing we're going to be discussing, because some states have, in all fairness, John, some states have not done very well for many years, long before the virus came. You know, you can't blame the plague, this horrible plague that came in, and all of a sudden, they can't blame that. You look at Illinois. Now, he's got a lot of problems long before the virus came in. And so we'll be talking about it. It'll be a subject for a period of time. And right now we've made this incredible deal for the workers and for small business. And I'm very happy that Harvard didn't get covered. We actually never sent them the check. But they were very nice about it. We never sent them the money. The old-fashioned way is the check. The new way is send them the money. And we didn't send them the money. And but they were very understanding, and they were very nice about it. So was Princeton, so was Stanford, so were a number of other schools that you just don't associate with this money. So were big companies, as you know many of them. It was a relatively small amount of money compared to the whole, very small amount of money compared, but we wanted to be fair. We wanted to go to the people that it's supposed to go to.
Are you open to this idea of state and local communities?
I'm open to ideas that are going to be great for the people of this country. And if we can help states, we're always going to help states. Now, there's different ways of helping states. Some ways are better than others. So we're looking. It is interesting that the states that are in trouble do happen to be blue. It is interesting. If you look around, I mean, the states that seem to have the problem happen to be Democrat. And
New Jersey got hit by this,
but New York and New Jersey were in a lot of trouble long before the plague came. And they were, they had a lot of problems long before the plague came. I spoke with Governor Cuomo about it, spoke to Governor Murphy about it. I spoke with Gavin Newsom about it. And I'm speaking to a lot of people about it because it's probably going to be the next thing on the list. A lot of people understand very well what Mitch is saying, and they also understand the other side of the problem. And I'll be speaking about it. We're going to do the right thing for our country, the right thing for our country, and the right thing for a lot of great people. Okay?
Yeah, Mr. President, after the presentation we just saw about the heat and the humidity, is it dangerous for you to make people think they would be safe by going outside in the heat, considering that so many people are dying in Florida, considering that this virus has had an outbreak in Singapore, places that are hot and are humid?
Here we go. The new headline is Trump asks people to go outside. That's dangerous. Here we go. Same old group. You ready? I hope people enjoy the sun. And if it has an impact, that's great. I'm just hearing this, not really for the first time. I mean, there's been a rumor that, you know, a very nice rumor that you go outside in the sun or you have heat and it does have an effect on other viruses. But now we get it from one of the great laboratories of the world, I have to say. Covers a lot more territory than just this. This is probably an easy thing, relatively speaking, for you. I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. You know, if you could, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor, but I'm like a person that has a good, you know what.
Sir, you're the president.
Deborah, have you ever heard of that? The heat and the light relative to certain viruses, yes, but relative to this virus?
Not as a treatment. I mean, certainly fever
Yeah.
is a good thing when you have a fever. It helps your body respond. But not as, I've not seen heat or light.
I think it's a great thing to look at. I mean, yeah. Okay.
Respectfully, sir, you're the president, and people tuning into these briefings, they want to get information and guidance and want to know what to do. They're not looking for rumors.
Phil, I'm the president and you're fake news. And you know what I'll say to you? I'll say very nicely, I know you well. I know you well because I know the guy. I see what he writes. He's a total faker. So are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? It's just a suggestion from a brilliant lab by a very, very smart, perhaps brilliant man. He's talking about sun, he's talking about heat, and you see the numbers. So that's it. That's all I have. I'm just here to present talent. I'm here to present ideas because we want ideas to get rid of this thing. And if heat is good, and if sunlight is good, that's a great thing as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead.
Mr. President, you talked a moment ago about vaccines and that we're close. How close do you think the Oxford University study says they could have one by September? Do you think the pharmaceutical companies in the US around
They could have one of what?
have a vaccine ready, tested by
Oxford's one, Johnson & Johnson is working. They're also working together. You have many companies working together on a vaccine.
But then do you think they can scale up production and the pharmaceutical companies will be able to do that quickly?
If we had a vaccine, it'll be scaled up very quickly. In fact, some of the companies, Johnson & Johnson is one, is scaling up already before they have the final answer. A number of companies are doing that. You'll save a lot of time. The normal is you scale up after. I have to say the FDA has been fantastic. Stephen Hahn, Dr. Hahn, has been fantastic. They're moving along rapidly.
Would you say, would it put a time scale on when you...
No, I don't want to put a time scale because then the media, the so-called media, mainstream media will say, he said a time. I don't want to say times because every time I say a time, if you don't hit it, they'll say. So I don't want to talk about time. But I will say that there's been tremendous progress made over the last month.
And can I just ask a very quick question? You spoke to Boris Johnson this week. I just wonder how he sounded, how he was. When do you think he'll be back at work?
He called me a few days ago. I will tell you, he sounded incredible. I was actually surprised. I thought it'd be like, oh, Donald, how are he was ready to go. I'm very surprised to tell you this. It's like the old Boris. Tremendous energy, tremendous drive. I was very surprised because he called me almost, pretty close to when he got out of the hospital. I think he's doing great. He was so sharp and energetic. Pretty incredible. He's an incredible guy. He's a friend of ours and a friend of mine. He loves our country. He loves his country a lot, but he loves our country. He respects our country. And they're lucky to have him over there. Please.
Mr. President, you a couple days ago said that you might reach out to Kim Jong-un directly, but also that you were working to find out if those reports about him being in possible medical trouble were true. I'm wondering if you've either.
I hope he's not in medical trouble. I hope he's not.
Have you heard anything
I
from
got
North Korea?
along very well with him. Here we are. You would have been in a war with North Korea if I didn't get elected president. Remember, I was going to be the one that took us into war with my first day in office, okay? Here we are. Look at what's happened. Withdrawal. We're bringing people home. We're not going to serve as policemen all over the world. I don't want to be policemen all over the world.
But have you been able to learn?
And yet I've rebuilt our military to a level that has never been built at before.
Have you
But
been
it's
able to
never
get more information?
recognized by the fake news. Go ahead.
Have you been able to use that relationship to get more information about his status?
I think the report was incorrect. Let me just put it that way. I think the report was done by a network that was incorrect. I'm hearing they used old documents, but that's what I hear. I hear the report was an incorrect report. I hope it was an incorrect report.
When was the last time you heard from him?
I don't want to say.
Since you wanted to meet, just a quick question about that. So you haven't made any contact though, just to make sure?
With who?
The North Koreans.
I don't want to say. I won't say that.
Okay.
We have a good relationship with North Korea. As good as you can have. I mean, we have a good relationship with North Korea. I have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I hope he's okay. And somebody would say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's not terrible. I hope he's okay. And I think it was a fake report done by CNN.
Can I ask you a question?
What do you have? Go ahead. No, that's enough. Go ahead.
Can I ask, that wasn't my question.
The problem is you don't write the truth. So, as far as I'm concerned, I want to go to the next
Can
one.
I ask you a question about
No, not CNN, please. Go
The
ahead.
White House has not
You don't-
responded to these
I told you.
allegations.
CNN is fake news. Don't talk to me. Go ahead, please.
But he says he was retaliated against, and that's why he was removed from his job. Do you have a response to that?
Okay, next question.
Mr. President, I have two questions, one on behalf of a colleague who's not here because of social
Please
distancing.
ask one, please.
First one, could you talk about your decision-making process with
Oh,
the
my
governor
what?
of Georgia? You
The
yesterday said,
controversy?
well, you said yesterday that you told the governor of Georgia
I
you were
did.
concerned.
Had a good talk with the governor of Georgia.
Earlier in the week, you spoke and you did not convey this kind of message. Was there a
I
change in
did
your
convey the
thinking?
message. I didn't like the fact that he's leaving certain things. I want the states to open more than he does, much more than he does. But I didn't like to see spas at this early stage, nor did the doctors. Is that a correct statement, Deborah? I didn't like to see spas opening, frankly. I didn't like to see a lot of things happening, and I wasn't happy with it. And I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp. I wasn't at all happy because, and I could have done something about it if I wanted to, but I'm saying let the governors do it. But I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp. Spas, beauty parlors, tattoo parlors. I know, that. And by the way, I want them to open, excuse me. I want them to open, and I want them to open as soon as possible. And I want the state to open. But I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp. I will tell you that right now. Yeah, go ahead.
So are you surprised he defied you on that?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't defy me at all. That's your language. He didn't defy me. You know what happened? I said, you make your own decision. I told him that. I said, you're not in the guidelines, but I'm letting you make your own decision. But I want people to be safe, and I want the people in Georgia to be safe. And I don't want this thing to flare up because you're deciding to do something that is not in the guidelines. And I went to Deborah and Dr. Fauci and other people, and they weren't thrilled about it. And I could have stopped them, but I decided, and we all agreed, they got to watch it closely. So we'll see what happens. I told him very distinctly, I said, Mike was there, I said, you do what you think is best. But if you ask me, am I happy about it? I'm not happy about it, and I'm not happy about Brian Kemp. Go ahead.
A question for Dr. Birx, if I may, Mr. President, about the rate of the decline of the curve in the U.S. You and the Vice President tonight talking about meaningful progress, promising progress. Could you speak to the rate of decline of cases in the
If we do
U.S.?
it quickly, that'd be great.
If you're satisfied with the decline.
You have to ask the question, but you do see it.
And if you have any information from other countries that would inform us about the decline.
Yeah, so many of you, and I've spoken to all of you from this podium about there's weekends difference in reporting. often a spike on Monday. If you look at Mondays over Mondays, if you look at 7-day reporting, we are starting to go down. We have a long flat peak, largely driven, of course, by New York, which is about 45% or so of the cases. As New York goes down, so will the rest of the country have a decline, even more accelerated. I want to say, though, we have had outbreaks. We've had outbreaks in specific prisons, we've had outbreaks in specific nursing homes, we've had outbreaks in specific plants. And when that happens, that adds 200, 300, 400 cases on that single day. So we track very carefully not only what the country's doing, but what each state is doing, each county is doing, and we look at delta changes across all of the counties so that we find early warning signals for these types of outbreaks, because we want the whole country to go down, but we also want to prevent the outbreaks before they occur.
Mr. President? Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to November, the election. Given the risk that the flu and the coronavirus, there could be a problem. Do you think there is a risk that there will be lack of agreement, lack of legitimacy to the results in a very close election, and people start saying, well, a whole bunch of people couldn't go and vote because
Look,
they were
I can't
scared.
tell you what's going to happen in an election. Yeah, great question. I can't tell you what's going to happen. We have a sleepy guy in a basement of a house that the press is giving a free pass to, who doesn't want to do debates because of COVID, and lots of things are happening, right? And I watched a couple of interviews, and I say, oh, I look forward to this, but they're keeping him sheltered because of the coronavirus, and he's not moving around. He's not moving too much. And then I watch what the press does to the Republican Party, and to me in particular. We had the greatest economy ever put together. We were doing, this is a month and a half ago, we were doing numbers likes of which we've never done. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, best employment numbers ever in the history of our country. Our employment numbers, the best in the history of our country, almost 160 million people. The stock market, record numbers, many, many times during my tenure. Many, many times. But now we have a country that we had to close because of this. And frankly, if we didn't close it, we would have lost millions of people possibly, but certainly we would have lost 1 million people. You take the high number and cut it in half again. But whether it would have been 600, 700, 800, you take a look at the travesty that there is. You take a look at this horrible, horrible scene of hospitals with bodies in black body bags, right? Multiply that times 10, 15, or even 20, because that would have happened. So we did the right thing. So far, we did the right thing. So far, we've called it right. We mobilized like it was a military operation, and it was largely a military operation between ventilators and testing and so many other things. And we've had a lot of good partners, not all good partners, but we had a lot of good partners. Gavin Newsom today thanked us very much. Gavin Newsom, California, thanked us so much for getting him all the things that he needed so he can keep going and keep doing a good job. We got it to him today. Tomorrow we're getting him even more. Would have been harder for him to get it than us. We agreed to get it. We got it on time. He said promises made, promises kept. He actually said that in a statement today. We've done a good job. We've gotten very little credit for the great job we've done because of the media, because the media is not an honest media, in my opinion, much of it. Not all of it. We have some great reporters that I have tremendous respect, but much of the media is not honest. So I can't tell you about the election. You have a Democrat Party, and you have a large portion of the media automatically giving a guy a pass. He's been given a pass. Whether or not he's going to be the nominee, I have no idea. But he's getting a pass. And the media isn't covering the great job that we've done, whether it's Mike's task force, which has been incredible, whether it's the way we mobilized in a warlike operation to build these incredibly complex and very expensive ventilators. They're very expensive to build and very complex. The job we've done has been an amazing job. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the generals, the admirals, Deborah and Tony and now Bill. I mean, something we hadn't heard today. So I can't tell you what's going to happen with the election. I think that had we not gone through a fake Russia deal, an impeachment hoax. It was a total hoax from the day I got elected, but you know it wasn't the day. It was many months before I got elected. This has been a witch hunt that was illegal. It was an illegal witch hunt. It was illegal. And with all of that, I'm doing fine. Because the people see we're doing a great job. And you know what? We'll continue to do a great job. If we had an honest press, this country would be even greater. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Whistleblower complaint, Mr. President, that's what Rick Bright says he's going to do. About that?
President Trump at the White House briefing, the coronavirus task force briefing. Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. Breaking tonight, we've just watched that briefing. President Trump saying he is grateful that Congress is providing additional relief for American workers. During that briefing, the House approved the latest government relief bill, an almost $500 billion package for small business loans, hospitals, and testing. The vote was 388 to 5, with one member voting present. Also tonight, another massive number of Americans out of work and seeking help. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts starts us off tonight, as he often does, from the White House. Good evening, John.
Frank, good evening to you. You know, we're almost becoming inured to the bad news when it comes to unemployment and these unemployment insurance claims. But there is growing pressure to get the economy back open because with each passing week, recovery does become more difficult.
Another 4.4 million people filed first-time claims for unemployment insurance last week, a decrease from the week before, but still a dizzying number. In a statement, the White House saying these are challenging times for many Americans who want to get back to work. We are on a data-driven, responsible path to opening up America again.
The gentleman from
As the House takes up the bill to replenish the small business loan fund, Congress already looking ahead to a Phase 4 stimulus plan.
Something that we fought for and was not in this package was assistance to local governments and states. What that really means is keeping employed folks who are police officers, paramedics, first responders, teachers, public health officials, the folks who are keeping us safe and keeping things running.
Many of the states are looking for a handout, but the Senate Majority Leader says, don't hold your breath.
There's not going to be any desire on the Republican side to bail out state pensions by borrowing money from future generations. I would certainly be in favor of allowing states to use the bankruptcy route.
It's one of the dumb statements of all time.
The idea of declaring bankruptcy, not something that sits well with New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
States should declare bankruptcy? That's how you're going to bring this national economy back? By states declaring bankruptcy? You will see a collapse of this national economy. So just dumb.
Another looming problem, huge losses at the U.S. Postal Service, on track for a $13 billion revenue shortfall because of coronavirus and may run out of money. So far, no appetite on the part of the White House to keep it afloat. And still no further explanation from the White House on why the administration's top expert on vaccines, Dr. Rick Bright, was suddenly demoted and transferred from HHS to the NIH. In a whistleblower complaint, Bright says it was retaliation for opposing the president's push to get malaria drugs out to coronavirus patients. President Trump saying he knows nothing about the move.
Well, I never heard of it. The guy says he was pushed out of a job. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. You'd have to hear the other side. I don't know who he is.
At the end of March, Dr. Bright tweeted out a story highlighting how he had asked the FDA for an emergency use authorization for chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. Sources tell Fox News that was a compromise between what the White House wanted, expanded access with limited physician oversight, and Bright's demands for controlled clinical trials.
And Vice President Mike Pence today gave an upbeat assessment of where we are heading in this crisis, telling our Geraldo Rivera earlier today on his radio show that the Vice President believes by the time we get to the Memorial Day weekend, coronavirus will be largely behind us. We can only hope, Brett.
John Roberts on the rainy North Lawn. John, thanks. Stocks were mixed today. The Dow gained 39. The S&P 500 dropped 1.5. The Nasdaq was off a fraction. Let's talk quickly about the situation with the U.S. economy. Joining us tonight, Austin Goolsbee, former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors for President Barack Obama, and Brian Brenberg, executive vice president and chair of the program in business and finance at the King's College in New York. Brian, I want to start with you. As you look at these numbers and the staggering unemployment, what do you see, and what are the kind of speed bumps we have ahead as we try to resuscitate this economy?
Yeah, well, the biggest speed bump, Brett, is if we don't start getting people back to work. You can see it already in these numbers. Even if the unemployment claim numbers start to drop, they're still going to be in the millions. You get to the point very quickly where it's hard for businesses to recover, to even stay open, to welcome workers back. If we don't start finding limited ways to do that coming up very shortly, that's the eventuality. There's a big debate about it, but I don't think anybody can debate that the only way you get through this is getting people back on the job.
Austin, you agree with that? I mean, obviously Congress and the administration pumping a lot of money to try to help small businesses, including tonight, but it seems like that will go fast too.
Yeah, you know, I agree that you do have to get out of lockdown to get the economy to come back and hire jobs. But that's far more complicated than just having the president announce everybody should just go back to work. Because you got to get the testing up so that people are not afraid that they're going to catch the virus if they go out of their house. I think they are going to burn through this money for small business, maybe not as fast, but pretty much as fast as they burned through the first $350 billion. And there's still going to be a couple of more shoes to drop now. So if the states start laying off state workers around the country because their revenues have gone down the tubes, that's going to be a whole nother round of job loss. And then if the small businesses that can't get access to this money start having to liquidate or go bankrupt, that's going to be a second shoe to drop. So I think we're in for a bit of a bumpy ride here in the next month or two.
Are we worried about inflation, Brian, as you look at the big picture?
Well, anytime you're spending the amount of money that the federal government is spending right now on stimulus, you have to start thinking about inflation. I mean, the price of oil is so low, that's going to help lead that down and keep that down. But the fact is, you cannot spend the trillions that we're spending and not start to ask the question, when does this show up as very powerful inflation? And if that does, again, that's going to be a big drag on the economy. Another reason why getting the thing back on the tracks really matters.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. We had many more questions from viewers and everybody else. We'll do it again. It's really important. Thanks a lot. And thank you for inviting us into your home tonight. That's it for this abbreviated special report. Fair, balanced, and still unafraid. And as we said, you heard the Vice President say it tonight too. We are one day closer to putting this all behind us. The story